Welcome back to Movie Moshow. Today we are going to review the science fiction film, The Cloverfield Paradox. If you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe. We post multiple times daily. Spoilers ahead. An off-screen news program alerts the audience to the fact that the world is rapidly deteriorating owing to an impending energy crisis, which is prompting numerous nations to threaten war, before the movie ever begins. A British scientist named Hamilton, Gugu Mbatha, and her husband Michael, Roger Davis, are seen waiting in a car at the beginning of the movie. They talk while in a traffic congestion about the numerous blackouts that are occurring nearby as a result of the energy crisis. We hear that Hamilton was invited to participate in a mission on board the Cloverfield space station to test the Shepard particle accelerator, which, if operational, will provide the Earth endless energy. The movie now takes place on station 2 years into the mission, when the crew is testing the Shepard for the nth time, as the title sequence indicates. The crew includes Hamilton, the German scientist working on the Shepard, Schmidt, Daniel Brühl, the Chinese scientist Tam, Zhejiang, the Russian scientist in charge of life support and making sure the ship's electronics are working properly, Volkov, Axel Henny, the crew doctor, Monk, John Ortiz, the Brazilian Mundy, Chris O'Dowd, the Irish technician, and the American crew commander Keel, David Oyelowo. The particle accelerator fails the test because it cannot produce more energy than is fed into it. In a webcam-like contact, Hamilton is seen telling her husband on Earth that the test was unsuccessful and that they only have enough fuel for 3 more tests. On board the ship, tensions amongst the crew members increase as Volkov accuses Schmidt of delaying the test despite the fact that Schmidt's native nation, Russia, is on the verge of running out of energy and threatening war with the West. While Keel tries to diffuse the tension, Schmidt refutes these accusations. While Monk watches a news report from Earth, the crew prepares for yet another test. According to the news report, Mark Stambler, Donald Logue, warns that if the Shepard is made operational, it may create a portal between dimensions through which monsters, demons, and beasts from the sea may enter the present dimension as well as other dimensions and past and future timelines. The test is launched after the team dismisses it as foolishness. The particle accelerator seems to be working this time, but it immediately overloads, producing an energy output that is significantly higher than usual. Tam suggests venting the system as a substitute when it catches fire and the condensation cooling system fails. The team fixes this to their shock to find that they are no longer orbiting the Earth. They initially think they might have inadvertently destroyed the planet when testing the Shepard, but they eventually realize they have been warped to a completely different region of the galaxy. When the crew starts hearing terrifying screams emanating from the walls, they realize that the gyro, a navigational device that helps the ship establish its bearings, has mysteriously vanished. To their great surprise, they find a young woman, Elizabeth Debicki, behind the wall panel where the screams are coming from, fused with electrical cables. They are able to save her and use a cutting-edge medical facility to repair her body to a healthy state, but they are surprised to discover that she appears to know Hamilton. Michael awakens to a massive explosion back on Earth. After looking at contradicting news on his phone and presuming that the Russians had attacked the city, he realizes that something else was to blame. He makes the decision to go to the hospital where he works in order to assist the alleged victims. Volkov notices that his eyes are drifting out of orbit on their own as he starts to feel something crawling under his skin. He appears to be talking to himself in the mirror before bypassing the security measures of an onboard 3D printer to create a weapon and ammunition. Then, he meets Schmidt on X deck, the location from which the Shepard may be repaired, and raises his gun to point it at Tam while claiming that the German works for his nation's secret agency. When he is brought to the ship's bridge after suddenly collapsing on the ground, worms that had previously vanished from the ship's laboratory suddenly explode from inside of him, killing him. Hamilton learns the young woman's name is Jensen after speaking with her in the medical bay. She claims to be a member of the Cloverfield's crew and knows everyone on board but Tam. She then cautions Hamilton not to put his trust in Schmidt. Keel learns from an off-screen investigation that the German is truly employed by the German government and is charged with deliberately destroying the Shepard in order to bring about the collapse of Russia due to the energy crisis. Schmidt passionately disputes this, but Keel confines him to a room for the time being. While on the phone with a contact at the space agency, Michael is informed that they have lost touch with the station. His wife is now aboard. When he notices something, he pulls over in front of a demolished structure. A child, Clover Nay, can be heard pleading for rescue as a huge dark figure that was momentarily visible through the smoke vanishes. Michael travels to assist her. Mundy's arm is unexpectedly sucked into the wall panel while he fixes the wall panel they earlier opened. Upon arriving to help pull him out, Keel and Hamilton quickly notice that his arm is no longer joined to his body. Monk observes that rather than having an arm forcefully removed from his body, It appears as though he was born without one. Meanwhile, a mysterious presence allows Schmidt to leave the confined room. He is shocked to see Mundy's arm moving around the ship by itself. When the rest of the team comes and captures it, they realize that the arm is trying to communicate with them. The arm orders the crew to open Volkov's body after receiving a pen from them. In doing so, they find the missing gyro inside the body of the Russian. They find that they are still in the solar system and that the Earth is on the other side of the Sun after putting the gyro back into its slot. When they re-establish contact with Earth, they learn through broadcast news reports that a world war for energy has been raging for the past 14 months and that the Cloverfield station was long since destroyed. They come to the conclusion that the Shepherd established a portal to a different dimension, which they visited and which was the source of all the ship's oddities. Although their location did not change, the Earth's orbit led it to travel to a different location on its course 14 months in the future, which is why they are now so far away from the planet. They are not in their own dimension. Instead, they are in Jensen's and, presumably, in the dimension of Mundy's arm. This also explains how Jensen is familiar with the crew, why she is unfamiliar with Tam, because she performs Tam's duties on the station and was Tam's replacement there in Jensen's dimension, and why they think Schmidt is a spy. Schmidt's counterpart in Jensen's dimension did, in fact, work for the German government. They believe they can reach their own dimension by reenacting the most recent test with the Shepherd. Back on Earth, Michael and the young girl, Molly, make their way to a friend's house for safety during the enigmatic ongoing fight in the city. Tam learns on board that the Shepherd failed because the cooling system's condensation tampered with the data Tam got at the conclusion of each test. On the other hand, ventilation would have produced the ideal circumstances for a stable beam. In an effort to test this idea, she enters one of the airlocks, but when water streams out of the condensation system and fills the space, she becomes trapped inside it. The other crew members make an effort to liberate her, but are forced to witness in horror as the water puts pressure on the airlock's outer door, breaking it open and instantly killing Tam. As Tam and Jensen both served in the same capacity on the crews of their respective dimensions, Keel decides to trust Jensen with replacing Tam on X deck in order to get the Shepherd up and running. When loud noises and violent shaking drive Molly and Michael to get alarmed and the power to go out, they are in the shelter talking on the phone with their contact at the space agency. Hamilton's children, who perished in Jensen's realm after she installed a power core in their house that malfunctioned and caused it to burn down, are now alive and well in Jensen's world, according to Jensen. She consequently decides to remain in this dimension. Keel is informed of this choice, and while initially hesitant, he eventually accepts it. The crew decides to turn off the life support, leaving only 2 hours of oxygen for the crew after realizing that they must divert power from other systems to the Shepherd in order to provide the necessary yield. In a small storage room, Mundy attempts to do so and is successful. However, a magnetic disturbance sends his tools and a gas canister flying in the direction of the wall, which results in an explosion that kills him and damages a portion of the ship. To preserve the rest of the ship, Keel, Hamilton, and Monk are compelled to enter the damaged section and launch it into space. Once there, Keel understands that he must shut the air lock behind him in order to do so, and he makes the ultimate sacrifice to save the rest of his crew. Thank you for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe.